Yo, what's up? Welcome back to the Haunted Basement Studio. I'm your host, Triple B, and in this hardcore comic book review, we're doing Vampirella Bloodlust, the conclusion, written by James Robinson and painted by Joe Jusko. And here we go. Vampirella has died and returned to Drakulon, her mother Lilith's realm of hell, where blood once ran in the mighty rivers. The land of Vampy's birth now lay scorched and dying. Its people fed on each other to survive. Vampirella vows to save Drakulon from certain destruction and unravel the mystery of Adam Van Helsing's role in its salvation. Together, they must confront the one person responsible for Drakulon's demise, Lilith. And now Adam and Vampirella are walking through the red sand desert where she asks him, "How much longer?" And he says, "I don't know, but I know when we get to the edge of the River Styx, we just have to keep walking." Drakulon's mother, Lilith, is dying. She can no longer empower the River Styx, that is the life of the planet, without killing her own existence. It was a hard choice for her to make, but when you are a survivor, you have to do what you have to do. And now one of her children, the one that she loves the most, is coming here to destroy her survival. Vampirella and Adam of the Light mean to bring the Six back to life, which would mean the death of Lilith. And now Lilith is going to call for the Dirt Eaters because Vampirella and Adam are about ready to hit their location. And with this, Lilith's heart is starting to break. And now Vampirella looks at Adam and says, "I need some blood. Ever since I returned to my home, I hunger so much." And he says, "It's because of your transformation." And she says, "Yeah, you know so much about transformation, you won't tell me about yours." He says, "In time I will." And then all of a sudden you see some dirt eaters right there. And Vampirella says, "What are those?" And Adam says, "Those are dirt eaters. They search the underground looking for whatever nutrients that they can find." And she says, "Do they work for Lilith?" And he looks at her and says, "It appears so." And now Vampirella starts flying towards her enemy and says, "Come on, Adam, my feast awaits." And he says, "I've never seen you strike so fast." And she says, "Just like you said, I've changed. And the sooner I strike, the sooner I feast," as she digs her fangs into a dirt eater's throat and starts sucking all the blood, as Adam's taking his sword and striking them down. And as they look at all the dirt eaters dead on the ground, they look up at each other with Vampirella licking blood off of her fingers. And now the next day, there's a sandstorm that's hitting Drakulon, where Vampirella says, "What is this place? I don't even remember it." He says it is one of Lilith's temples. They built this out of the bones of the dead to tribute Lilith. And she says when the rivers begin to die, they hope this place would be a tribute enough that Lilith might save the river and thereby save the land. When there were no more dead to supply their bones, some living volunteers died just so that the work can continue. And when there were no more volunteers, the priest simply began killing everyone. And now Vampiro looks at him and says, "And what happened next?" He said, "It was all for nothing. The river dried up anyways, and all the priests and worshippers, they died as well. It was all for nothing." And as they walk into the temple, Vampirella says, "I want to explore this place. I feel a strength here." Adam says, "What you feel is Lilith's essence from all the worship and sacrifice for her. She is all around this place. So you need to be careful." And Vampirella looks at Adam and says, "When are you going to tell me how you know so much about this place, about the cities and the land of Drakulon? It's as like you have a complete history of Drakulon." He says, "I will explain soon. Just remember, be careful," as Vampirella walks into a room inside the temple. As she walks into the room, Vampirella starts to burn with warmth like she's never felt before. And she thinks to herself, I should kill Adam and be the daughter of loyalty and truth. And she imagines the sweet tang of Adam's blood as she licks her lips. But now another thought comes to Vampirella, loyalty and true, and she says, I do not think like this. What is going on here? And all of a sudden you hear Lilith, I am here. And there is a magical mirror where Lilith's in front of Vampirella and they're both staring down each other. Vampirella says, Mother, and Lilith says, yes, Vampirella, I'm your loving mother, the one that you want to see dead. And Vampirella says, how are you talking to me? Is this some sort of magic portal? And Lilith looks at her and says, a mirror created in magic and ash and the souls of children. It means that the priest might communicate with me and beg for their lives, as I now beg for mine. As Vampirella pleads with Lilith, she says that, I'm sorry, but this land is my home. Its people are my people, and these are your children. And Lilith looks at her and says that I created, and I will see them die if it means that I live. Vampirella looks at her and says, you have lived for eons. Isn't that enough? Can't you accept your fate? Dying knowing that you leave life in Drakulon, life that will worship you forever. For God will come one day soon, and then all your selfish preservation will be for nothing anyways. Lilith looks at Vampirella and says, wait until death calls your name, child. Wait and see what you do. What steps, any and all that it takes for one more day, one more hour. I love this planet. I love my children, but I made my choice to live at whatever cost. Vampirella says, I must stand by my decision. And Lilith says, I love you, daughter. She says, I do as well. And Lilith says, well, then you must forgive me for what I'm about to do. And as she starts to take down Vampirella with this magic storm, Vampirella yells, Adam, help! As he comes running into the tomb and grabs his sword off his back and throws it at the magic portal. And the portal disappears. As he grabs Vampirella, she looks at him and says, oh my God, my mother tried to kill me. And he said, yes, I know. And now with years of traveling and battling the evil of Drakulon as they take him down, and Vampirella sucks blood out of any creature that she finds, they finally reach the mountain, and he says, Vampirella, this is it. She says the mountain. He says, no, this is the river bend. This is where the reservoir was drained from the River Styx of blood. And we have finally made it. As they walk into the mountain, Adam says, here is a trickle of the source of blood, but it only has 1 or 2 drops a day. And even in the cool of this mountain, it evaporates so fast. And he says, reach out your finger and try it. And as a drip of blood goes onto her finger, she licks it and says, oh my God, this tastes amazing. But we need more. He says, I must go up to one of the top of the ledges. Maybe we can find a faucet and turn this river back on. Adam Van Helsing makes his way up to one of the ledges. As he sits down, he is super calm, like he has done this every day. But it isn't that course. The calmness comes from being prepared and ready. He's been prepared every day since he died. And as he moves up into the top of the mountain, he reaches his hands up and light comes flying out of his hands. And he yells. And then the river bend opens up as blood comes flowing down the mountain in a raging rush. And now one of Lilith's servants says, oh my God, he did it. Van Helsing the light. He opened up the river as it flows. And she says, "Don't you think I already know? Don't you see me already dying?" And now Lilith says to her main servant, "Go on, go live your life. Go live the life that your sister Vampirella is going to bring to you." And he says, "No, Lilith, I will die for you. I will die with you." And Lilith says, "No, if you want to please me, then you will live. Tell all who still serve me to live. And if they can, have them not hate their mother for what she did. All I wanted was to live too. Is that so wrong?" And as she reaches out her hand and says one final command, and he says, "Anything." I would have Van Helsing gone from Drakulon. I would have him dead. Now go seek out the southern nomads who remain loyal. Have them snooping stuff out Van Helsing's light. And he says to her, "Consider it done." And now, as the river flows on the blood banks, new life is being formed in Drakulon. But Vampirella wonder how life would go on without her mother there. And Adam says, "I know that you are sad." And she says, "Yes, I am." And then all of a sudden he says, "Your mother has one last vengeance sent out to us. Look, we are about ready to get attacked." And now he pulls Vampirella close to him and says, "We haven't long. Do you want to know why I'm here? How I know what I do? Now is the time to tell you. And all the time we have. When I was young, before I joined the Van Helsing quest to rid vampires from Earth, I was wilder. I drank. I was stupid and crazy. I killed a man. He was a wild one like me, but he didn't deserve to die. I carried the guilt with me. This is why I took to the goals of my family. This is why, like my earthly father, I hated vampires so." And Vampirella says, "Redemption." And he said, "Yes, I wanted redemption, for the hatred cleaned my conscience for a time too, until I met you, and I knew I could never hate again. But then I died. I learned that the initial killing of mine was God's will. I needed the sins of murder so I could enter hell's portal, yet with my heart still pure, made pure by my years of struggle to alone." And she says, "Why? To act as God's conduit." And now Adam says, "If he had simply struck Lilith down, she would have gone, but that wouldn't automatically make the river live again. No, that had to be done separately. My mission was to come here. I didn't retrieve the six. It was in my Father, God in heaven, who acted through me. Some in Draculon call me light. It is God's light of which they refer." And Vampirella looks at him and says, "Why? Why did God care if the six flowed through hell?" And Adam says, "Because those who live here, whether they realize it or not, are his children too. He wanted to give them life." And now Vampirella says it, "And now you have done it. Why are you still here? Why haven't you ascended?" Adam now says, "I've been to hell, Vampirella. There can be no place in heaven for me now." And she says, "But the army approaches. They want our heads." And Adam looks at her and says, "Oh, I doubt that they want to harm you, Vampirella. It's not your head they want to mount on a pike." And then she looks at him and says, "Then we will fight them together." He says, "No, no, I do not think so. Look at you." And she says, "Adam," he says, "you are slowly like transcending away." Away. Goodbye, Vampirella. Whatever your fate, whatever you'll be, think of me. please think of me. And as she slowly starts to disappear, she says, Adam, it never seemed to be the right time or place to say this. I still love you. I'll always love you. And as she disappears, and now, as Vampirella transitions back into human form, she says, Mother, you summoned me? And Lilith looks at her and says, I am soon to die. It seems the least I can do with the last of my power. And as Vampirella hugs Mother down at her leg, she says, You commanded an army to attack Adam. Please, Mother, don't kill him. Spare him. Lilith now looks at Vampirella and says, I cannot do that. You cannot ask it. Not if you love this land as you do. If you love it enough to have a hand in your mother's destruction, then you should love it enough to test your man's worth for the same land's sake. Vampirella says, Test him. And Lilith says, If I'm gone, Drakulon will need a leader, someone wise and strong. If he can best an army, then Adam Van Helsing is such a man. And Vampirella looks up at her and says, And if the task is too much, she says, it would not be a test if there was no chance of failing it. And now, with bloodshed tears, Vampirella says, What about my summoning? Lilith and Vampirella walk down towards the River Styx as Lilith says, You are my one chance. If my father is the enemy, and then through you, I might yet live on and achieve it. And Vampirella says, Achieve it? Like what? And Lilith says, Redemption. A word you heard not long ago from Van Helsing's lips. Van Helsing craved it his whole life. Will you be mine? And Lilith says, I will bathe in the River Styx one final time. Join me and we can talk, mother to daughter. And so it was. On the bloody banks, mother and daughter, they talked and made their peace and affirmed their love for one final time. Lilith had a task for Vampirella to undo the hate. Vampirella agreed, of course, and was gone in a flash of a pale, watery blue. God came moments later. And then Lilith was gone as well. By the banks of the mighty river, a warrior sits and renders his weapons for what's to come. The battle and the blood. As he stands and stretches, he breathes in the iron and sulfur air. He smells the weary fighter's smile, knowing his battle will be his last or his greatest. Oh, my Father, as he calls out, to not forsaken me now. And then Adam Van Helsing spits at the approaching hordes. He laughs. He walks towards his destiny. The end. And that was Vampirella Bloodlust 2-issue, man. After doing that review, my final thoughts of the book was it was pretty good. I liked it. It had a good story. It kind of gives you a little backstory of Vampirella and Lilith and Drakulon. So I thought they did a good job. The most amazing part about this book was the art in it by Joe Jusko. Absolutely stunning as hell. And he had it back then and he still has it now, man. Absolutely think it was gorgeous. So if you like this type of video and you want to see more, click right over there and you can see more. And Triple B's is out of the Haunted Basement Studio. And I want you guys to remember one thing: you keep it hardcore comics. Laters.